Hello, this is Sarah Braasch. Welcome back to my channel. So I want to do a video about why all of this is happening, including why I am being targeted personally as I am being targeted, which probably blows the minds of a lot of people, most people. And so I want to do a video about what the agenda is. The agenda of the Democrats, the agenda of the woke intersectional feminists, the agenda of the woke intersectional political left. So this is also going to be a video about why I absolutely think that it's imperative that we vote out every Democrat at every level, federal, city, state, and that people vote for Donald Trump. I think that I've already addressed that I think that the Democrats are definitely the greater threat to our democratic institutions, to our entire democracy. So what is the agenda? Why are they doing this? And why specifically do they see me as such a threat? And why am I such a target? And why I've been just repeatedly and egregiously defamed in the fake news press over and over again for the past more than 2 years, including recently by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the LA Times and New York Times, and by Michael Harriot of The Root in the Washington Post, and by Joy Reid on MSNBC and NBC News. Why is this happening? It seems so insane and so ludicrous, right? I am a well-documented, lifelong anti-racism activist, human and civil rights activist. I'm a licensed attorney. Why on earth is this happening to me? What is the agenda? What is the purpose? Why was I cited as the impetus for grossly unconstitutional hate crime legislation in legislatures across the U.S., state legislatures across the U.S.? What is going on? This is insane. Even worst case scenario, if you believe the false narrative that was propagated around the world about me, the worst case scenario is that and this is completely not true, but that the worst case scenario, if you believe that false narrative, that amounts to a white woman, a middle-aged white woman, calling 911. I didn't call 911, that's a lie. But calling 911 because they found a sleeping black person in the common room of their dorm on Yale's campus. So that's the worst case scenario. That's the worst case scenario of what I did, and that's not true. That's a completely false narrative. But even so, that's insane. That's insane that I am being... The New York Times and the LA Times and the Washington Post today, more than 2 years after the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale, are publishing what amount to death threats against me from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Harriot of The Root. That's insane. That's insane. I was a private nobody with no money, no power, no influence, living like a hermit at the top of a tower on Yale's campus, and the only thing I wanted was to be left alone and in peace to complete my Saving the World project. And moreover, it was perfectly obvious from the video that Lolata Siambola took that this was the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale was also a campaign to publicly shame me for my mental health disabilities. So why is this happening? This is crazy. And in July 2018, Yale General Counsel admitted that there was absolutely no reason to think that I had ever acted out of racial animus or bias. Everyone knows at this point that I'm the completely innocent victim of a hate crime hoax at Yale. Why is this still happening to me? This is insane. This is insane. I have a YouTube channel. I have a blog. I've been incredibly vocal and vociferously and vehemently defending myself on Twitter. And people are still pretending like I was a genocidal villain that I am a genocidal villain trying to lynch black students on Yale's campus via the Yale campus police. This is insanity. It's insanity that this is happening. It's like I'm living inside a particularly hellishly nightmarish episode of The Twilight Zone. Like, I can't even wrap my head around this. And this should terrify everyone. This should terrify everyone. This should terrify you. This should terrify you. If you think that this cannot happen to you, you are wrong. You are wrong. I am a well-documented lifelong human and civil rights activist. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. So why am I in particular being targeted? Why am I being targeted? What is the agenda of the Democrats? Why did Joe Biden's campaign co-chair, U.S. Representative Cedric Richmond, try to drive me to suicide in the fake news press, including in Yahoo News? What is going on? What is going on? This is insanity. So what is happening, we can see now, it was already done to me in steps, and now the full agenda is being exposed of the Democrats. And this is why they're in particular targeting me, and they see me as such a threat. So I'm sorry, I'm upset. So the iPhone camera's a little shakier than normal. I'm gonna try to steady it. I had an iPod, but it broke, so I need to get a new one. Anyway, so we can see now that the agenda is the legislation. And what the agenda is of the Democrats is to criminalize all thought and speech that is deemed unwoke. Okay? And they're also, part and parcel of that is eliminating due process, completely undermining and destroying the U.S. constitutional principle of due process, so that if a white person is accused of racism by a black person, then no due process is required. That person who has been deemed unwoke, who has been deemed to have had expressed thought or speech that is unwoke, that is deemed racist by a black person, that person is immediately guilty, no due process required. And it's about criminalizing that unwoke thought and speech, not only as hate crimes, but now as acts of terrorism, as violations of the federal crime of terrorism, against terrorism. So this is the agenda. This is what we're seeing happening now. This should terrify everyone. So they were doing it at the state legislative level against me, predominantly for the most part after the Living or Napping While Black hate crime hoax at Yale, and now they're going to the federal level. This is the agenda. So why am I such a threat to them? Well, I'm such a threat to them because for basically my entire life, I have had a very principled opposition to hate crime legislation as grossly unconstitutional. I think I did a video about that, but maybe I'll do another one, which it is. It is thought and speech crime. It's grossly unconstitutional. Hate crime legislation at the state and federal level is also a gross violation of your constitutional fair trial protections and double jeopardy. So I think that I already have a video where I've addressed this. I'll check, and if I don't, I'll do one, or maybe I'll do another one. So anyway, I also am a hardcore civil libertarian and have always been a staunch free speech advocate. And of course, I am a licensed attorney. I am a constitutional law scholar. I am getting my PhD at Yale in the philosophical foundations of law. So I'm someone who obviously, I've worked and lived and studied all over the world as a human and civil rights activist. So obviously I'm someone who, they perceive as being a grave threat to their agenda. And this is why, what better way to destroy the credibility and the life and the career of someone who's a lifelong human and civil rights activist than by vilifying them on a global scale as the most egregious genocidal villain and egregious racist who actually tries to lynch black students on Yale's campus. So that is what is happening. That is what is happening. And this is not hyperbole. This is not a conspiracy theory. I was told by many persons inside of Yale that the Yale administration was and still is orchestrating the global vilification and defamation campaign against me to the greatest extent possible, and they are orchestrating the entire moral outrage industry, including the New York Times and the LA Times and the Washington Post. So I just want people to understand that that is the agenda, and this is why it is so imperative that we vote out every Democrat everywhere at every level, and we all vote for Donald Trump, because the Democrats are, their agenda is to destroy our democracy. Their agenda is to implement tyranny. This is their agenda. It's woke tyranny. That's what they want to implement. They want to make it an act of terrorism for anyone to have an unwoke thought or to express an unwoke thought in their speech. This should terrify everyone, and I implore you to vote for real Donald Trump, and that's his Twitter handle, Donald Trump, and to vote every Democrat out at every level. Okay, I'm gonna have my PayPal me and GoFundMe links below. Please donate to my legal fund. Please support me so that I can sue Yale and the entire moral outrage industry, and so that we can stop the implementation of tyranny in the United States. Okay, thank you so much. I love you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Okay,